When Dongshan and his group decisively retreated, the intense spiritual energy fluctuations emanating from Wen Qingxian and the others gradually subsided. Originally, they had expected a fierce battle today, but they hadn't anticipated that Mu Chun and his group would arrive just in time, scaring Dongshan off. "Are you all okay?" Mu Chun turned his head, looking at Wen Qingxian and the others, and smiled. Wen Ziyu smiled and cupped his hands in gratitude. "We really have to thank Brother Mu. Otherwise, we would have had quite the battle today. Humph, if we had fought, it's probably them who would have suffered." Wen Qingxian snorted lightly, a cold light flashing in her phoenix eyes, clearly still vexed by Dongshan. Mu Chen was somewhat surprised. He could tell that Wen Qingxian wasn't bluffing. Though their group consisted of only about 6 people, the strongest among them was Wen Ziyu, who had reached half-step great perfection. However, even with this strength, they were still not a match for Dongshan, who had reached great perfection. It seemed that Wen Qingxian and her team had some hidden trump cards. Seeing Mu Chen's surprise, Wen Qingxian placed her jade hand on her slim waist, proudly saying, "Don't underestimate us. If we didn't have some tricks up our sleeves, how could we dare come to the ancient sacred abyss? However, are you planning to rely on Sister Ling Shi and Long Xiang to protect you here in the ancient sacred abyss?" Wen Qingxian tilted her head slightly, giving Mu Chun a teasing look. Although Mu Chun now possessed the strength of an Upper Earth Supreme, which was already quite impressive, it was merely the standard level for this expedition to the ancient sacred abyss. Only true great perfection experts could serve as the overwhelming force. Among Mu Chen's group, it seemed that only Ling Shi had the ability to play that role, which was why even when Qingxian believed Ling Shi was the real pillar of the team. Mu Chen smiled and shot her a glance, but didn't say much. Instead, he changed the subject. "Were you targeted?" Earlier, the Demon Slayers had intercepted Wen Qingxuan's group and had even set up an ambush, clearly targeting the Wen family. Wen Qingxuan's smile faded slightly, and her phoenix eyes grew cold again. "If I'm not mistaken, they must have been instructed by the Northern Desert Wu clan." "The Northern Desert Wu clan?" Luo Li's beautiful eyes narrowed. "That's a powerful force, not weaker than the Wen family. They have quite the reputation in the Great Thousand Worlds." Wen Qingxian nodded slightly. "The information we originally obtained about the Heavenly Supreme Ruins was acquired by the Wen family at great cost, but the Wu clan secretly interfered, stealing the information from us. Only our 2 families knew about this information. How could Dongshan and the others have known about it? And they even specifically intercepted us in this area. The Wu clan is definitely involved behind the scenes." Wen Ziyu also nodded in agreement. And without the Wu clan's backing, Dongshan wouldn't dare act so arrogantly. The Wu clan's team is probably already rushing to the Heavenly Supreme Ruins. Mu Chen nodded slightly. "Can you share the details about the Heavenly Supreme Ruins?" The value of the Heavenly Supreme Ruins was self-evident. Without the information from Wen Qingxuan's group, it would have been extremely difficult for Mu Chun and his group to find it. Though he had helped them earlier, Mu Chen wasn't the kind of person to hold such things over others, so his tone carried a sense of negotiation. He needed detailed information to assess the risks going forward. Wen Qingxian had no intention of hiding anything and generously said, "You're now our partners, so of course, we'll tell you everything we know." The Heavenly Supreme Ruins were likely left behind by a Heavenly Supreme from ancient times, known as Spirit Butterfly Pill Immortal. Spirit Butterfly Pill Immortal? Mu Chun and Luo Li exchanged a glance. Yes, Spirit Butterfly Pill Immortal was most famous for her alchemy skills. Though she was only a spirit-grade Heavenly Supreme, the pills she refined were highly regarded even by Saint-grade Heavenly Supremes. In the ruins, there are many divine pills left behind. These pills are incredibly valuable, and every single one that circulates attracts the attention of many powerful experts. Like the Sacred Spirit Pill, it's said that it can help a half-step great perfection expert fully step into that realm and break through to great perfection. Wen Ziyu's goal here is to obtain one of those Sacred Spirit Pills. Wen Qingxian pointed to Wen Ziyu beside her, and when the Sacred Spirit Pill was mentioned, the latter couldn't hide the intense desire on his face. Of course, it wasn't just him. Long Xiang, the dragon warrior by Mu Chen's side, also swallowed hard. Being at the brink of perfection himself, The sacred spirit pill's appeal was immense to him as well. It was almost like a shortcut that could save them years, or even more, of arduous cultivation. Of course, this sacred spirit pill is not the most prized creation of Spirit Butterfly Pill Immortal, when Chen continued. There are rumors that Spirit Butterfly Pill Immortal's greatest work is a divine pill known as the sublimation pill. This pill seems to have the ability to randomly elevate a practitioner's divine abilities by one level, and even the most extraordinary abilities can be enhanced. Upon hearing this, Chen's gaze immediately sharpened. Though the effect of the sublimation pill might seem ordinary, only he knew how difficult it was to elevate the realm of an extraordinary divine ability. For example, his own immortal golden body, the Supreme Dharmakaya, originally had 3 supreme divine abilities: Immortal Divine Runes, Immortal Lotus, and Immortal Life and Death Transformation. Yet, even after all this time, Chen had only reached the first level, and as for the second level, the Immortal Lotus, he had yet to unlock it. If he could obtain a sublimation pill, wouldn't it directly open up the second supreme divine ability of his immortal golden body? The mere thought of it caused even Chen's heart to burn with excitement. Besides that, within the Heavenly Supreme Ruins, there are also numerous divine pills left by Spirit Butterfly Pill Immortal. These are incredibly valuable resources, and even our one family is tempted by them, when Chen added. Chen nodded. A Heavenly Supreme Adept at Alchemy leaving behind such treasures was truly a jackpot. If they could obtain them, even a superpower like the Wen family would experience a significant boost. No wonder the Wu family has tried everything to stop you. In the face of such a huge benefit, what are a few schemes worth? Luo Li sighed. If they could obtain the Heavenly Supreme Ruins, the Wu family's strength would undoubtedly skyrocket. At that point, they wouldn't need to worry about offending the Wen family. When Chen slightly nodded, focusing on Chen and the others. If our collaboration succeeds, we will split all the divine pills in the ruins 50-50. Her words took everyone by surprise. Even the strong members of the Wen family, who had followed when Chen exchanged looks. Clearly, the proposed split was beyond their expectations. After all, the Wen family had paid a significant price to obtain this information. Furthermore, to be blunt, if they were looking for collaborators at this ratio, there were many stronger teams than Chen's who would jump at the opportunity. However, just as they were about to speak, when Chen silenced them with a stern look, she calmly said, "The Heavenly Supreme Ruins aren't ours yet. Don't treat it like something already in our pocket. Right now, the Wu family is relentless and seems determined to claim the ruins. If we go in alone, we might end up with nothing. Moreover." She paused, her gaze subtly lingering on Chen, and then she smiled gently. "As a woman, I feel that this guy might just be worth the price." Though she had mocked Chen earlier, her intuition told her that the most formidable of the 4 wasn't the outwardly impressive Ling Shi, but this seemingly lower-level Earth Supreme, Chen. When Chen clearly held a high status in the Wen family, and since she had said this, no one else dared to object. When Ziyu also smiled at Chen. "In that case, whether we return with full hands depends on Brother Mu." Chen smiled in return, then turned his gaze to Wen Chen. After a brief pause, he slowly said, "Though we have the advantage now, I believe you will find that you got more than your money's worth." His voice was calm and soft, yet the confidence in his smile strangely reassured the Wen family's strong members. Perhaps this young man in front of them might surpass their expectations after all. When Chen studied Chen deeply, his current confident demeanor was reminiscent of the time during the 5 Academies War. Even then, despite facing numerous powerful enemies, he had been filled with self-assurance. That kind of confidence didn't just strengthen him, it seemed to inspire those around him as well. Many years later, despite enduring countless hardships, it was evident that Chen's confidence remained steadfast within his heart. In this world, only those who possess unwavering self-confidence and are not defeated by any suffering are truly qualified to climb to the peak. When Chen smiled gently, and in that fleeting moment, her bright charm could rival that of Luo Li standing nearby. She extended her delicate jade-like hand and, with a smiling expression, said, "Then, let's wish for a pleasant cooperation this time." Chen smiled and extended his hand, gently grasping her cool, soft hand. Cooperation will surely succeed. Amidst the towering, rugged mountains, atop a lush peak, a figure stood with hands clasped behind his back beneath a towering pine tree. He gazed into the depths of the mountains. After a long pause, he suddenly turned his head, looked behind him, and smiled faintly. "Dong, your arrival now indicates that the plan has failed." From the forest behind him, a figure with a gloomy expression emerged. It was Dong Shan, who had previously clashed with Mu Chen and his group. Wu Tong, your plan failed. When Qin Xian is quite clever. She immediately saw that I had already partnered with you, Dong Shan said darkly. Under the pine tree stood a man named Wu Tong, with fiery red hair like flames. In his long hands, he casually twirled 2 golden spheres etched with profound patterns. Occasionally, waves of spiritual energy emanated from his body, overwhelming like the sea and deep as an abyss, impossible to underestimate. Hearing Dong Shan's words, Wu Tong merely smiled, unbothered. It was just a test. I never expected it to succeed. And even if it didn't, with the strength of your team, you should still have caused Wen's family quite a bit of loss, no? Dong Shan's face grew even darker. They remained unharmed. At the last moment, an unfamiliar team intervened. They must have been Wen Qingxuan's allies. Oh. Wu Tong's golden spheres paused slightly. How strong are they? One is a high-rank spirit array grandmaster. The other is half-step perfection, Dong Shan replied. As for Mu Chen and Luo Li, who were just upper earth supremes, they were clearly disregarded. A high-rank spirit array grandmaster, huh? Wu Tong's eyes narrowed slightly, then he smiled faintly. It seems Wen Qingxian and the others aren't fools. They knew to find help. But does she really think that adding a high-rank spirit array grandmaster will change anything? My Wu family has prepared for years for the spirit butterfly ruins. How could we give them any chance? He turned to Dong Shan and smiled. Dong, let's head to the ruins together. Rest assured, the promised reward will be honored. My Wu family doesn't default on its debts. I hope so. Dong Shan grunted, his scarred face twisting into a sinister grimace. Earlier, in an attempt to stop Wen Qingxian and her group, he had lost 4 Upper Earth Supremes from his team, a significant blow, as those team members were seasoned warriors with fierce killing intent. Thinking of this, Dong Shan's gaze darkened, and he said, when we capture them, you must hand that Mu Chen over to me. I will make him understand that offending Dong Yi is a relief even in death. Do as you wish. Wu Tong chuckled casually. He wasn't even interested in knowing who Mu Chen was because, in his view, Wen Qingxian and her group would inevitably fail. As for the fate of the losers, he had no time to concern himself. His gaze wandered far off, staring into the deepest part of the mountains, where a greedy light gradually gathered in his eyes. The spirit butterfly ruins. Whether I, Wu Tong, will become the second heavenly supreme of the Wu family depends on this chance. Give the order to move out. We must get ahead and prepare some gifts for those behind us. He suddenly turned around, his voice carrying. Whoosh. His figure shot upward like a streak of light, racing toward the deep mountains, followed closely by several dark shadows from the dense forest, exuding a chilling aura. Whoosh. In the mountains, 10 streaks of light flew low, their gazes fixed on the distant mountain ranges. The spirit butterfly ruins are at the center of this mountain range. At our speed, we should arrive in about half an hour, Wen Qingxian said, drawing near to Mu Chen. Her crisp voice, enveloped in spiritual energy, reached Mu Chen and the others' ears. But now, the Wu family should be ahead of us, so we must hurry to avoid them claiming everything first. Mu Chen and Luo Li both nodded. They had come a long way, and naturally, they didn't want to just drink the leftovers that the others had left behind. Thus, the group's pace suddenly increased again, with light and shadow streaking across the sky. In the distance, a sound resembling a sonic boom echoed quietly through the air. At this full speed, half an hour later, when Qingxian, who had been leading the way, began to slow down. Her phoenix eyes were cast far ahead. Mu Chen and the others followed her gaze and saw a deep green miasma spreading out from the mountains ahead. The miasma was vast and seemed to engulf the entire mountain range. Mu Chen lightly sniffed the air and immediately felt his spiritual energy tremble. A strong sense of repulsion surged in his heart, urging him to stay away from the area shrouded in the green miasma. This miasma is poisonous, Mu Chen said, his face serious. Clearly, the green miasma was filled with deadly toxins, and even an Earth Supreme would struggle if they entered. Wen Qingxian nodded slightly and said, "It's said that this miasma comes from the decomposition of divine pills left behind by the spirit butterfly pill immortal. The toxicity is extremely potent. Even a perfect Earth Supreme would suffer heavy damage if they were eroded by it." Mu Chen furrowed his brows and looked at Wen Qingxuan's relatively calm face, smiling. "Looks like you were prepared." Wen Qingxian smiled gently, not denying it. She waved her hand, and several rays of light shot toward the group. Mu Chen caught them, opening his palm to reveal a cold blue pill, the Ice Heart pill, emitting a chill that made everyone feel relaxed and at ease. This is the Ice Heart pill, a divine pill for detoxification. It's produced by the Boundless Fire domain and is quite valuable. Each one costs several million supreme spiritual liquid. Just place it under your tongue, and it will neutralize the poison in the miasma. Produced by the Boundless Fire domain, Chen glanced at the Ice Heart pill in his hand with great interest, impressed. As one of the top 3 alchemy places in the Great Thousand Worlds, the pills from the Boundless Fire domain were indeed top-tier treasures. He swallowed the Ice Heart pill, and immediately, a chilling sensation spread through his body, making him feel light and purified. Let's go. From here on, we must be extra cautious. Even though we've entered the ruins, this area is filled with danger. It won't be as easy as before, when Xun'er warned seriously. After speaking, she didn't waste any more time. Her graceful figure moved swiftly, leading the group forward. Chen and the others followed closely, turning into 10 rays of light as they rushed into the vast green miasma that filled the sky. Once inside the miasma, Chen and the others immediately felt the world grow heavy. They could also sense that when the green miasma touched their bodies, it silently seeped into their skin, eroding them from within. As the miasma entered their bodies, Chen immediately noticed that his spiritual energy seemed to be weakening. He focused and found that some invisible particles, resembling seeds, had appeared in his body. These particles began absorbing his spiritual energy. Upon realizing this, Chen's expression changed slightly. But before he could take action, a cool sensation spread through his body. The icy energy flowed through him, freezing the particles into powder. Huff! A cloud of white mist burst from Chen's nostrils, with some powder falling down, which clearly came from the toxic miasma. Such a terrifying poison. Chen's expression darkened. Fortunately, when Xun'er had come fully prepared, bringing along such an expensive detoxifying pill. Otherwise, just the miasma here would have rendered them helpless. Buzz. Just as Chen was inwardly relieved, a subtle buzzing sound seemed to rise from the surrounding space. His pupils contracted sharply. Ahead, beneath the green sky, a mass of dark red clouds was rapidly approaching. As it got closer, Chen realized it wasn't a cloud at all, but a swarm of dark red mosquito beasts. The swarm was enormous, covering the sky and blocking out the sun. Though the mosquito beasts were only the size of a finger, their sharp stingers glinted with a greenish light, indicating that they were also deadly poisonous creatures. However, after personally experiencing the overwhelming miasma of this place, Chen dared not underestimate anything here. He immediately waved his sleeve, and a vast surge of spiritual energy howled out, forming a protective energy barrier that enveloped everyone. Boom! The swarm of mosquitoes continued to rush toward them, eventually crashing heavily into the spiritual energy barrier. Poof! Poof! At the moment of impact, one mosquito beast after another exploded, their crimson blood splattering across the barrier, instantly corroding it, leaving pockmarks all over it. Had Chen not quickly injected more spiritual energy to sustain the barrier, it would have shattered on the very first impact. Even so, facing the relentless suicidal attacks of the mosquito beasts, Chen's expression grew grim. He could feel his spiritual energy rapidly depleting. Maintaining a barrier strong enough to withstand the overwhelming onslaught of suicidal mosquito beasts clearly required an enormous amount of spiritual energy. Chen, these are the poisonous Ghostface mosquitoes. Their blood can erode spiritual energy. They're incredibly domineering. When Xun'er hurriedly reminded him, Chen nodded, channeling spiritual energy to maintain the spherical energy barrier, protecting everyone as they moved through the swarm, trying to escape as quickly as possible. However, this idea was soon shattered. He noticed that, for some unknown reason, more and more Ghostface mosquitoes were gathering in overwhelming numbers, making their progress increasingly difficult. At this rate, their movement would undoubtedly be severely hindered, and their speed would be greatly slowed down. Chen furrowed his brows, his face darkening. After a moment, his pupils suddenly constricted slightly, and a cold voice rang out in Luo Li, Wen Xingxian, and Ling Shi's ears. This doesn't feel right. Someone is controlling these Ghostface mosquitoes to target us. Someone is controlling these Ghostface mosquitoes? Hearing Mu Chen's words, when Qing Xian and Luo Li were startled, and when Qing Xuan's face turned cold, she said, "It must be someone from the Wu family. They're trying to stop us. Is there a way to uncover the person behind this?" When Ziyu looked at Mu Chen, if they allowed the unseen saboteur to continue meddling, even if they managed to break through the mosquito swarm, they would be severely drained. Mu Chen's gaze flickered slightly. He scanned the vast, black mosquito swarm and said, "These ghost-faced mosquitoes communicate through sound waves, and the person controlling them is likely using sound waves to command them." "Ling Shi, can you construct a sound wave spirit array?" Mu Chen asked, turning to Ling Shi. The spirit arrays he mastered were mostly offensive, with limited utility effects. Ling Shi, however, focused on mastering spirit arrays, and her expertise far surpassed his. Upon hearing this, Ling Shi nodded slightly. She raised her slender hand, and a series of spirit seals quickly flew into the surrounding space. In the next moment, a burst of spiritual light erupted, and a delicate spirit array appeared before her. Within the spirit array, light and shadow surged, resembling a massive drum. Boom! The array activated, and the great drum vibrated violently. In an instant, a deep, thunder-like drum sound reverberated through the heavens and earth, suppressing even the incessant buzzing of the mosquitoes. Buzz! Buzz! As the drumbeats rang out, the mosquito swarm began to stir. The ghost-faced mosquitoes, which had previously been fearlessly attacking Mu Chen and the others with suicidal intent, now froze and began darting around in confusion. "Move!" Seeing this, Mu Chen immediately seized the opportunity, urging the energy barrier to surge forward. Boom! Boom! The drumbeats echoed through the heavens and earth, and the energy barrier whistled through the mosquito swarm. After a few minutes, the dark sky brightened, and Mu Chen and his group broke free from the swarm. They looked back and saw that the endless mosquito swarm was scattering, buzzing off in all directions. The once orderly mass was now in chaos. Indeed, someone is controlling them. When Qingshuan's face grew even colder, Mu Chen narrowed his eyes as he gazed at the dense forest below. His gaze suddenly shot northward, where he felt a faint fluctuation of spiritual energy. Boom! At the very moment Mu Chen focused on that direction, a flash of light shot out, weaving through the trees, attempting to escape. "Wanna leave?" Long Xiang's eyes flashed sharply as he stomped his foot. In an instant, his figure turned into a bolt of lightning, shooting out at incredible speed. The air beneath his feet exploded from the force of his kick. Long Xiang shot into the forest, and immediately, violent waves of spiritual energy erupted, soaring into the sky. After a dozen breaths, Long Xiang shot back, holding the body of a figure dressed in gray. But judging by the state of the figure, all life had already faded from it. This guy is ruthless. Seeing that I was about to catch him, he actually swallowed poison and killed himself, Long Xiang said, tossing the body aside with some surprise. To be able to train such a death warrior clearly required a power beyond ordinary forces. This is a martial attendant of the Wu family. When Qing Xian glanced at the figure and immediately recognized his identity, her beautiful eyes turned cold as she stared deeper into the mountains. "I know who the Wu family sent this time." "Who?" When Ziyu asked hurriedly. "Wu Tong." When Qingshuan's voice was icy. Such high-level martial attendants are rare in the Wu family. The number of people who can command them is very small, and Wu Tong is one of them. "That guy." When Ziyu's face shifted, his eyes flashing with a trace of wariness, clearly not unfamiliar with the name Wu Tong. Wu Tong is the most outstanding person of this generation in the Wu family. It's said that he has been designated as the next head of the Wu family. This man has exceptional talent. After decades of cultivation, he has reached the realm of perfect Earth Supreme. He is one of the strongest within the Wu family, and his methods are ruthless and hard to deal with. When Qing Xian explained to Mu Chen and the others, who were unaware of the Wu family's situation, Mu Chen, however, simply nodded indifferently. He had never heard of Wu Tong, but no matter how difficult Wu Tong was, they still had to fight him if necessary. "It seems the Wu family really wants the spirit butterfly ruins," when Qing Xian said, her lips pressing into a tight line. She glared at the mountains and sneered, but no matter what, trying to steal treasure from me. When Qin Xian won't be as easy as you think. Let's go. We must hurry and reach the spirit butterfly ruins. With that, when Qin Xian took the lead, swiftly darting ahead, Mu Chen and the others followed suit, becoming streaks of light as they sped toward the poisonous mountain range. As they departed, a shadow beneath a large tree in the forest stirred. Slowly, it began to take shape into a vague figure. This figure was shrouded in a sinister and evil aura. Just standing beneath the tree began to wither visibly, and even the surrounding spiritual energy seemed to flee from the area around the figure. Gray eyes, filled with endless death energy, watched the direction in which Mu Chen and the others had left. Then, the figure scooped up some dirt, chewed it for a few moments, and swallowed it down. A strange light flickered in the gray eyes, and a raspy, malevolent laugh echoed through the empty forest. This land, indeed, a demon emperor once fell here. The taste is truly delicious. He laughed in a strange manner, and then the shadow rippled and vanished into the darkness. Mu Chen and the others' figures quickly swept across the sky above the forest. It was then that Mu Chen began to sense the numerous dangers hidden within the poisonous region. After passing through the Mosquito Sea, they had encountered several waves of poisonous creatures. These creatures were incredibly cunning and treacherous, and if they hadn't been so cautious, they likely would have suffered casualties. Fortunately, after enduring many close calls, they finally managed to reach the deepest part of the mountains without incident. There it is, our destination, the Spirit Butterfly Ruins. On a mountain peak, when Qin Xian pointed toward the distance. There, a series of mountains seemed to have been melted and then formed into a massive cave mansion. The cave was shaped like a spirit butterfly spreading its wings, looking extremely unusual. Moreover, a vibrant and tangible spiritual energy erupted from within, almost like a perfect cultivation ground. If this place weren't located in the ancient sacred abyss, it would truly be an ideal place to establish a sect. Mu Chen gazed at the spirit butterfly cave mansion and couldn't help but exclaim. Such a blessed land, coupled with the poisonous mist protection outside, was almost a natural training ground. Luo Li and Wen Qinxian both nodded, clearly in agreement. The target is right ahead. Prepare to move, Wen Qinxian said as she withdrew her gaze and looked at Mu Chen and the others. Once everyone nodded, she gave a slight nod of her head, and the group transformed into streaks of light, shooting directly into the vast spirit butterfly cave mansion. Upon entering the cave mansion, Mu Chen and the others noticed that the lighting inside was even brighter than outside. The cave mansion was spacious and expansive, with passageways stretching forward, leading deeper into the mansion. However, despite this, Mu Chen and the others didn't recklessly split up. Instead, they chose a passage to the left, moving cautiously. The passage was somewhat dim, and after walking for about 10 minutes, they reached the end, where a stone hall appeared. As they stepped into the stone hall, the first thing that caught their eyes were 10 stone beasts crouching on the ground. They guarded the only exit of the hall, resembling protectors. Mu Chen and the others stopped, staring at the 10 stone beasts. Though there was no spiritual energy fluctuation coming from them, they could sense that these stone beasts were not simple. Indeed, as soon as they stopped, the 10 stone beasts slowly opened their eyes, and within them, a shocking spiritual light surged. Roar! They let out a low growl, the sound like thunder, echoing through the stone hall and whipping up a gust of wind. These are pill beasts? When Qingxuan's eyes widened slightly, her gaze fixed on the stone beast with surprise. Pill beasts? Mu Chen was taken aback, clearly unfamiliar with them. They are a type of puppet, but instead of being powered by spiritual energy, they are controlled by divine pills. Pay attention to their eyes. Those are made from divine pills. When Qin Xian explained. At her reminder, Mu Chen immediately snapped to attention. Upon closer inspection, he indeed saw that the eyes of the stone beast were made of pills, each gleaming with spiritual light. Look at the one in the center. When Qin Xian suddenly exclaimed in a shocked voice. The group quickly looked toward the center and saw an unusually large stone beast. It resembled a flood dragon, and its two dragon-like eyes sparkled with a crystal-like luster, emitting an extremely strange wave of energy. This stone beast is incredibly strong. Mu Chen's heart raced under the pressure it gave off. It was definitely a true Earth Supreme at great perfection. The strength of the stone beast depends on the grade of the divine pill it is powered by. When Qingxuan's gaze was almost fervent as she stared at the stone beast's eyes. She smiled and said, if I'm not mistaken, the two eyes of this flood dragon stone beast should be the very thing Wen Ziyu and Long Xiang have been obsessing over. When Ziyu and Long Xiang's pupils suddenly contracted, and in unison, they gasped, "Its eyes are Saint Spirit pills." Saint Spirit pills? Mu Chen's gaze turned astonished as he stared at the flood dragon pill beast. He hadn't expected that the spirit butterfly pill immortal would be so extravagant as to use such precious Saint Spirit pills for the eyes of the pill beasts. Based on Mu Chen's estimate, just these 2 Saint Spirit pills, if put up for auction in the Great Thousand Worlds, could easily fetch over 80 million supreme spiritual liquid. It would certainly spark a frenzied bidding war among powerful figures like Long Xiang and Wen Ziyu, who were on the brink of reaching great perfection. Beside them, Wen Ziyu and Long Xiang's eyes had already turned red with greed. If it weren't for the oppressive strength of the flood dragon pill beast, which was a true Earth Supreme at great perfection, they likely would have already lost control and attacked. "Leave the flood dragon pill beast to Ling Shi, and we'll deal with the other 9. Mu Chen smiled, noticing their eagerness, and said, "It's not wise to brute force these puppet pill beasts with low intelligence but fierce fighting spirit. It's simpler for Ling Shi to handle them. You really know how to delegate." Ling Shi rolled her eyes at Mu Chen but didn't refuse. She then moved gracefully, and with a flick of her jade hand, a vast number of spirit seals, like countless stars, soared into the air and merged into the surrounding space. As expected of a genuine high-rank spirit array grandmaster, Ling Shi's spirit array was laid out with a fluid elegance, exuding an unusual beauty. In just a few breaths, the space before her began to twist, gradually forming a massive spirit array. Within the array, the air grew thick, as if the spiritual energy itself carried the weight of a mountain. The formation of the spirit array was successfully completed. Ling Shi waved her sleeve, and a surge of spiritual energy shot directly towards the flood dragon pill beast. Roar! The flood dragon pill beast, upon being attacked, immediately let out a furious roar. In the next moment, it surged forward, carrying with it violent winds and thunder, charging straight at Ling Shi. Boom! Lacking intelligence, the beast showed no sign of evading the formation. Instead, it charged headlong into it. As the flood dragon pill beast entered the spirit array, its speed instantly slowed down. The spiritual energy within the array caused it to transform into a swampy world. With the beast's frantic struggles, the binding force increased, layering upon its body. In just a few dozen breaths of time, the beast's speed became exceedingly slow, as if it had sunk deep into a swamp, trapped. If a human with intelligence were here, they would have likely tried every method to escape. However, the flood dragon pill beast only struggled with ever more terrifying force, but the result was that it only sank deeper. This formation is called the Spirit Marsh Array. It is best used against opponents who specialize in physical cultivation and possess immense strength. Once trapped inside, the more one struggles, the stronger the binding force becomes. Meanwhile, the swamp absorbs the trapped one's spiritual energy. In the end, once their energy is exhausted, they can only surrender. Ling Shi, looking at the easily trapped flood dragon pill beast, smiled slightly and said to Mu Chen, "Truly deserving of being a high-level spirit array grandmaster." Mu Chen, Luo Li, and Wen Qingxian all expressed their admiration. If they were to fight the flood dragon pill beast head-on, even a true Earth Supreme in the perfect realm would need an intense battle, and the outcome wouldn't be certain. However, when Ling Shi made her move, she effortlessly rendered the beast harmless. Though it could be considered unfair, given that the beast lacked intelligence, it still showcased the power of a high-level spirit array grandmaster. "Let's make our move too," Mu Chen said, as they turned their attention to the other 9 pill beasts. These beasts, with only upper Earth Supreme strength, posed little threat to them. Therefore, after Ling Shi acted, they immediately joined in. Boom! Boom! Inside the stone hall, violent spiritual energy howled as waves of powerful attacks swept through. However, the commotion did not last long and ended with the 9 pill beasts being torn apart. Mu Chen waved his sleeve, and spiritual energy swirled. He then caught a dozen or so round, spiritually infused pills in his palm. These pills, though not as precious as the sacred spirit pills, were extraordinary. Each one had varying effects and would fetch a million-level price in the Great Thousand World auctions for their supreme spiritual liquid value. Mu Chen and Wen Qingxian didn't pay much attention to the pills but still followed the usual practice of dividing them equally, each taking half. Once Mu Chen and the others had cleared the stone hall of all the pill beasts, Ling Shi made her move. The flood dragonstone beast trapped in the spirit marsh array was now dim, unable to move within the swamp of spiritual light. Ling Shi's slender jade finger lightly tapped the air, and spiritual energy flickered at her fingertips. In the next moment, violent waves of spiritual energy began to surge within the formation, and the array began to change. The swamp of spiritual light receded and transformed in the blink of an eye into a world of thunder. Immediately after, massive lightning bolts, as thick as serpents, rained down and fiercely struck the flood dragonstone beast. After just a few breaths, the beast let out a sorrowful cry and exploded into pieces. Lingxi clenched her jade hand, and from the debris of shattered stones, 2 streams of light shot out and landed in her palm, 2 precious sacred spirit pills. Excellent! Mu Chen couldn't help but clap in admiration. As a fellow high-level spirit array grandmaster, he could clearly see that in the split second of lightning and thunder, Lingxi had replaced the spirit marsh array with another offensive array. The transition between these 2 formations was seamless, a perfect display of a high-level grandmaster's skill. Lingxi smiled slightly at Mu Chen's praise and then tossed the 2 sacred spirit pills toward Longxiang and Wenziyu. Clearly, they were the ones most in need of such pills at the moment. Thank you, Miss Lingxi. Wenziyu exclaimed in surprise as he caught the sacred spirit pills, cupping his hands in gratitude. It was nothing, Lingxi replied with a smile. After this matter is settled, you can look for opportunities to refine the pills and break through, when Qin Xian reminded them. After all, the situation here was dangerous, and if they attempted a breakthrough, it was likely there would be unforeseen complications. Besides, they didn't have the time to wait for both of them to finish their breakthroughs. However, when Ziyu and Longxiang both understood this, nodding in agreement, they suppressed their excitement and carefully put away the sacred spirit pill. Let's continue as well. I wonder how far Wutong and the others have progressed. When Qin Xian glanced at Mu Chen and the others and said, "All right." Mu Chen and the others nodded. The most pressing matter now was to reach the deepest part of the cave mansion, where the true treasures lay. With their decision made, the group didn't hesitate. After a brief preparation, they turned into flashes of light and swiftly left the stone hall. Behind the stone hall, they discovered a long corridor again. At the end of the corridor, there was another spacious stone hall, but this time, there were 20 pill beasts inside. Judging by the situation, the path to the deepest part was littered with such stone halls. Only by breaking through these numerous stone hall challenges could they reach the very depths. Mu Chen and the others felt helpless about these obstacles. However, in the next moment, they gathered their spirits, and with a surge of violent spiritual power, they charged at the pill beasts. At the very least, after defeating these pill beasts, they would gain a substantial number of high-quality divine pills. If these accumulated over time, they would become a very precious cultivation resource for both the Wen family and the Mu Mansion when dealing with Mu Chen. With this thought, Mu Chen and his group suddenly found these blocking pill beasts somewhat endearing. In the following half a day, Mu Chen and the others fought their way through 10 stone halls, each time with an increasing number of pill beasts inside. By the time they reached the 10th stone hall, there were over 100 pill beasts, with 4 of them having reached the perfection of Earth Supreme. Luckily, with Lingxi, the high-level spirit array grandmaster, present, these pill beasts, who only had strength but lacked intelligence, were merely moving pill storage units for the divine pills. However, even so, when they finished clearing the 10th stone hall, even Lingxi's face turned slightly pale, clearly exhausted from the immense strain. Mu Chen gathered all the pills, distributed them among the group, and smiled in satisfaction upon seeing the large haul of precious pills, which totaled over 100. These divine pills were worth hundreds of millions, and such a vast resource, if given to the Mu Mansion, would certainly increase their strength dramatically. Let's go continue. After the group recovered somewhat, Mu Chen licked his lips, his eyes tinged with a reddish hue, full of greed. Now that he understood the value of these divine pills, he almost wished these stone halls had no end. Clearly, the many pill storage vaults left by the spirit butterfly pill immortal were now all stored within these pill beasts. So in a sense, these pill beasts were also part of the legacy treasures of the spirit butterfly pill immortal. The others were also dazzled by the divine pills emitting pure spiritual energy. Despite the numerous battles, they remained energetic. The group stepped out of the stone hall, ready to face more stone beasts. However, this time, when they stepped out of the stone hall, the expected corridor didn't appear. Instead, a huge lava cavern came into view. The cavern was vast, filled with surging spiritual light. In the air above, it was like a starry sky, with countless stars shining brightly. But if one looked closely, they would realize that these were not stars at all, They were, in fact, pills transformed into star-like shapes. As soon as Mu Chun and the others saw the cavern, they immediately understood. Unknowingly, they had reached the deepest part of the spirit butterfly ruins. Boom! Just as they marveled at the sight, a stone door in another direction suddenly opened, and a group of people rushed out. The two teams faced each other. They froze for a moment, and the next instant, a fierce killing intent erupted from both sides.